The Indian 4th Mountain Division entered the Asal Uttar story as an unlikely formation for one of the great armored clashes of the post-war era. It was not designed as a tank-killing shield in the plains of Punjab. It was a mountain division built around infantry that could fight in difficult terrain, hold ground, and operate where roads and heavy vehicles were often limited. Yet in September 1965, this formation had to absorb the shock of Pakistan's armored plan in the Khem Karan sector. Its importance lies in that mismatch. Asal Uttar became not only a battle of tanks, but a battle of adaptation, where a force organized for one kind of war had to solve a different problem quickly enough to survive. If you would like to move beyond the podcast, you can see my available books at militaryauthor.me. And at trackpads.com, you will find magazines and galleries with hundreds of thousands of photos and videos to explore. A mountain division is not simply an ordinary division with a different name. Its training, habits, transport, and expectations are shaped by terrain where movement is difficult, and infantry often carries the burden of battle. Such formations value endurance, defensive skill, local movement, and the ability to operate in broken country. They are not normally the ideal instrument for stopping a major armored thrust across cultivated plains. When the 4th Mountain Division found itself in Punjab, it faced a battlefield where tanks, roads, artillery, and speed seemed likely to dominate. That contrast helps explain why its performance matters. The division did not win because it was perfectly suited to the task. It mattered because it adapted under severe pressure. The division operated within a larger Indian command system that was trying to manage the widened war after the 6th of September. Indian Western Command, led by Lieutenant General Harbaksh Singh, had to deal with threats across a broad front, while local commanders had to make immediate choices with incomplete information. The 4th Mountain Division's commander, Major General Gurbaksh Singh, faced the hard practical problem of preserving his formation while preventing a dangerous enemy breakthrough. These names matter less as personalities than as reminders that armored battles are shaped by command decisions at several levels. High command may decide to widen a war, corps and divisional commanders may allocate forces, but men at brigade, battalion, and company level must turn orders into a line that can actually hold. At the start of the Punjab fighting, the division was involved in India's own movement in the Khem Karan sector. The early Indian advance did not develop cleanly enough to settle the area, and Pakistani resistance, terrain obstacles, and the general confusion of war reduced momentum. That created a dangerous situation. A formation that had moved forward could find itself exposed when the enemy prepared a powerful counterstroke. This is one reason the story of 4th Mountain Division should not be told as if it calmly waited in a perfect defensive position from the beginning. It had to move, fight, reassess, and then accept that survival required a different shape of battle. The path to Asal Uttar ran through uncertainty. The mismatch became more severe because the enemy threat was not just infantry or local artillery. Pakistan's 1st Armored Division represented one of the strongest armored forces either side could commit in the war. Against such a threat, a mountain division could not rely on spirit alone. It needed armor support, artillery, anti-tank weapons, mines, engineers, and above all, time. Infantry without anti-tank support can be overrun or forced into desperate close fighting. Tanks without infantry can be ambushed or isolated. Artillery without observation may waste its strength. The division's problem was to combine pieces that had not been arranged for a textbook defensive battle in this exact ground. Its achievement was to make those pieces work well enough. The decision to withdraw toward Asal Uttar was central to that adaptation. Retreat is often misunderstood in popular memory as failure, but in military practice, a controlled withdrawal can be the beginning of a stronger defense. Holding Khem Karan at all costs might have left the division exposed to a heavier blow on ground the enemy wanted to exploit. Pulling back toward the Khem Karan Beaky Wind line allowed Indian forces to trade space for time and to create a more deliberate defensive layout. The danger was obvious. A withdrawal can become panic if units lose contact, if roads clog, or if commanders cannot re-establish control. The division had to step backward without coming apart. The defense that formed around Asal Uttar depended on combined arms rather than one dramatic weapon. Indian armor, including units equipped with Centurions, Shermans, and lighter tanks and other roles, would become essential to the fight. But they needed infantry positions to anchor the ground. Artillery had to disrupt concentrations and punish movement. Engineers had to lay mines, improve obstacles, and help reshape the battlefield. Anti-tank weapons had to be placed where they could fire from concealment rather than be overwhelmed in the open. The lesson is simple but profound. A mountain division facing tanks could not become an armored division overnight, but it could become the center of a defensive system designed to deny tanks the battle they wanted. Terrain gave the division its opportunity. The area around Asal Uttar included fields, villages, crops, tracks, irrigation features, and low ground that could be made worse for heavy vehicles. Sugarcane and other cover limited visibility and helped hide defenders. Water could make movement uncertain, especially for tanks trying to leave known routes and maneuver around resistance. Mines could slow or channel in advance, while artillery and tank fire could strike vehicles that had lost freedom of movement. None of this removed the danger. A prepared battlefield is not a magic shield, but it meant that Pakistani armor would not be charging across a clean, open plain. It would be entering a landscape the defenders were learning to turn against it. The infantry role was especially important because villages and local positions gave shape to the defense. Places such as Chima and the approaches around Asal Uttar were not just names on a map, they were anchors in a defensive pattern. Infantrymen had to hold under artillery fire, face the noise and fear of tanks nearby, and preserve enough cohesion for anti-tank weapons and supporting armor to do their work. In close country, a tank's confidence can shrink quickly if its supporting infantry is absent or delayed. Riflemen, machine gunners, recoilless rifle crews, and anti-tank teams could influence where tanks dared to move. The armored battle depended on men in dugouts, village edges, and crop-covered positions who refused to make the attackers' movement easy. Communications and logistics inside the Indian defense were strained but vital. Units needed ammunition, water, medical evacuation, replacement weapons, and clear instructions about where to hold and where to pull back. Artillery observers needed to know what they were seeing and how to call fire before opportunities vanished. Tank crews needed to understand the defensive layout so they could engage without becoming isolated. Engineers needed enough time and material to lay mines and prepare obstacles under pressure. A defensive success may later look static, as if men simply waited for tanks to arrive, but the reality is full of movement. Orders pass, guns are shifted, vehicles are repaired, wounded men are carried away, and commanders try to impose pattern on confusion. The human burden on the division should not be softened into legend. Men who had trained and organized for one kind of war were suddenly facing the prospect of a powerful armored breakthrough. There was fear, exhaustion, confusion, and the knowledge that a failure in this sector could open the road to something much larger. Some decisions were made with incomplete information, and not every movement or deployment was elegant. That honesty makes the achievement more impressive, not less. The division's response was not a story of perfect preparation from the first hour. It was a story of recovering from danger fast enough to build a defense that could survive the next blow. In the wider history of armored warfare, 4th Mountain Division's role at Asal Uttar reminds us that anti-tank defense is not only a matter of anti-tank guns or better tanks, it is a matter of shaping the attacker's choices. By withdrawing to better ground, organizing depth, using villages and fields, coordinating with armor and artillery, and allowing engineers to alter the terrain, the division helped create conditions in which Pakistani strength would become harder to use. This connects Asal Uttar to earlier and later armored battles. From the First World War to the late 20th century, tanks have been most dangerous when they move through a broken enemy system. They are far less decisive when the enemy system bends, reforms, and makes movement costly. The 4th Mountain Division matters because it turned an apparent weakness into the basis of a defensive victory. It was not the formation one would have chosen, in theory, to stop a major armored thrust in Punjab, yet it became the formation that held the center of the story. Its success did not come from ignoring the mismatch, but from adapting to it. Space was traded for time, terrain was reshaped, infantry was anchored, armor was integrated, and the coming Pakistani attack was drawn toward a battlefield where speed would be difficult to preserve. Asal Uttar would still require courage, luck, and hard fighting, but by the time the main blow arrived, the division had begun to transform retreat into resistance, and danger into opportunity.
You've been listening to Famous Tank Battles. These battles were never just about machines. They were about doctrine, terrain, firepower, logistics, and the hard problem of turning shock into victory. For more military history writing and books, visit militaryauthor.me. And for magazines, podcasts, and a massive archive of military photos and video, visit trackpads.com. Thanks for listening.